The world is waiting for a COVID vaccine, but having a mass-produced vaccine is still at least a year away. AbCellera, a Vancouver biotech company, received $175 million from the federal government to develop an antibody-based therapy as quickly as possible. It won't be a cure, but this therapy could save lives. To understand what AbCellera is developing, you first need to understand convalescent plasma therapy, a treatment already being tested in COVID-19 patients.
And it's basically blood that's been separated, where you separate out all the blood cells, all the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and you are then left with the fluid part. And it's in this fluid part that the antibodies reside.
That's Ralph Pantophlet, a flu and HIV researcher at SFU who shifted his focus to COVID-19 treatments. Convalescent sera, often just called plasma, takes advantage of our body's natural ability to fight infections like COVID-19 with antibodies.
These antibodies essentially are meant to attack this invading pathogen, bind to it, and prevent it from reaching its goal, which is usually a target cell in the body somewhere.
Someone who has survived COVID presumably has some immunity to the virus, so they can give their antibodies to others, providing them with a temporary arsenal to fight COVID.
Viruses need cells to be able to replicate, and if they don't, they basically die off. So the antibody basically prevents that from happening.
Early studies on plasma have mixed but promising results, but the approach isn't perfect. Supply is very limited. We can only produce as much serum as we have willing donors who have recovered from the disease. And as with any blood transfusion, there are risks in rare cases. Sera can cause allergic reactions, lung damage, bacterial contamination, and can transmit bloodborne diseases like hepatitis.
Rather than taking a pool of plasma with sort of unknown content, you could isolate individual antibodies that are characterized. So you would have one antibody that you would know up front that they work.
That's called an antibody therapy. The idea is simple. Inject coronavirus-fighting antibodies into patients to help them fight the infection or potentially even prevent it in the first place. The real trick is finding and isolating the right antibodies. That's where AbCellera comes in. They have developed a technology that identifies and isolates specific antibodies.
We have what we call a chip, which is about the size of a credit card. And on this chip, there are 200,000 little chambers, and each of those are 1 nanoliter in volume. So this is very, very tiny, but big enough to fit a single immune cell that produces antibody.
That's Véronique Lecault, AbCellera's co-founder and chief operating officer.
We can look for the properties of the antibodies that they are producing. So within a few hours, we're able to see which of the cells make antibodies that we're interested in, such that we can produce them at larger scales afterwards.
Finding the right antibody is a bit like that kid's game Guess Who. You have a wide cast of characters, in this case hundreds of thousands of antibodies, each with slightly different characteristics. You whittle down the possibilities based on which characteristics you're looking for. AbCellera received their original cast of antibodies from the blood of one of North America's first COVID patients.
When we received that first sample, within 3 days we screened over 5 million different cells. Then within a week we had over 500 unique sequences for those antibodies.
To find an antibody to use as a therapeutic against COVID-19, you are looking for an antibody that binds tightly to the coronavirus and binds in the right place to block the virus's entry into cells. You also need an antibody that can be produced at scale in a lab.
The more potent the antibody is, the lower the dose is needed to treat a patient. And what that means in the current situation is that then we can treat more people.
Ultimately, a vaccine will likely be needed to put an end to the COVID-19 pandemic. So why spend resources on antibody therapies? It all comes down to time.
The 1 year mark for a vaccine, people say a year and a half. I think to have all the safety things in place, that's reasonable. With an antibody therapy, 6 months is, I won't say easily done, but normally that would be doable.
AbCellera and their partner Eli Lilly have started their first human trial, which is only testing their therapy's safety. Results on the safety of the therapy are expected in late June. If AbCellera or someone else can find the right antibody in their Guess Who game quickly, it could be an important life-saving tool in healthcare workers' arsenal. But it won't be a cure. The therapy, even at its best, will likely only be effective for a short time. And while experts think the therapy could help prevent new infections, it likely won't be enough to end the spread of COVID-19. Nevertheless, a stopgap protection could save countless lives.
Normally, from this discovery step to having a drug on the market, it can be over 10 years, and now we're shrinking that to just a few months.